welcome back. We are counting down our top 20 vinyl albums of all time. So if you haven't already seen the number 20, please do go back and check that one out. But for now, we're going to be jumping on to number 19, and I'll be starting off with this one. So for this one, we have got The Light of the Spirit by Kitaro. So Kitaro is a Japanese, I want to say new age artist, although he himself has kind of denounced the term. But it's the easiest way to describe him, essentially. So we'll call it that for now. But yeah, essentially ambient electronica is kind of where this would sit. Interestingly enough, also co-produced by Mickey Hart from the Grateful Dead, which I thought was quite a fun little fact, a little bit of a weird one as well. It's not something you would normally expect. But yeah, this album is very, very, again, like my number 20 pick, very, very laid back, very chilled out. And I think is one of those ones that probably inspired a lot of what I'm into today in terms of composition and writing. A lot of synthesizers and a lot of like rompler and sample-based music on this one. Essentially, like the entire album has that kind of digital false panpipe sample all over it. But yeah, I think, you know, for someone who, you know, basically the entire first 10 years of my life was growing up listening to video game soundtracks and things like that, this kind of hits that really, really nicely without being a video game soundtrack. You know, not to take away from the album itself, but it's got a similar sort of feel where it just creates a very good setting. I highly recommend checking out like the music videos, I suppose you would call them music videos, that are on YouTube on Kitaro's official channel. They are essentially just nature clips, but they really do kind of capture how this album sounds, how this album makes you feel. Track 3 especially, The Field, that starts off with this amazing, it's just like a plinky synth, and then transitions into lots of pads, lots of that kind of synthesized panpipe kind of sound. And yeah, again, just a really, really relaxing album that this one kind of intentionally does blend from one to the other. Yeah, very open, very airy, very, very clean sound. And yeah, absolutely fantastic.
I think you played at the Vinyl Club before, haven't you? Because I recognise the sleeve.
Yeah, so I have brought this one in the past. There's just something about all of his music. Like, a lot of his tracks, I think many people would have a hard time distinguishing between some of them. You know, they do have a lot of common elements. Even his newer stuff, you know, with the way that sampling and things like that have come on, he's still kind of stuck with that more kind of old school, like rompler based sound. And I've got a lot of respect for someone to be able to stick to that in the face of, you know, sample libraries and stuff like that, which are, you know, at this point nearly perfect copies of real studio recordings. But yeah, he's really stuck to his guns. One thing that's quite interesting about Kitaro as well, when he was growing up, he grew up as in like a farming family in Japan, and they actually lined up a job for him when I think he was like 16 or 17, and he specifically chose not to show up to his first day of work. And I found that quite interesting, just like that rebellious nature for you know, a nation which essentially is raised on being quite respectful to authority and things like that. But yeah, he just flat out didn't bother showing up to his first day of work, and basically told his parents, like, nah, this is what I want to do.
Right.
And that was, I believe that was like 1973, 1974. And then from like 1976 onwards, he's just been recording. I think he's got something in the lines of like 24 albums.
Still releasing now, is he?
Yeah. So I think his last like full length was 2017. But yeah, still producing music to this day, which is, you know, fantastic.
Cool. Nice. I think I do remember some of them. So for my number 19, I chose a album which I absolutely love, and it's an album by Doppler Effect. I'm not even going to attempt to chime in. You know, I think this is German. I'm not going to attempt to even say this, but this album, Doppler Effect. This came out on a label who I absolutely adore. It's a label called International DJ Gigolos. And what I found about that label, they were always way ahead, and it was a way of me discovering like new bands, new music. And this stuff is really kind of like what I call like tripped out electronica. They're from Detroit. The main guy is Gerald Donald, who is also one half of another electro act called Drexia. The stuff is really sought after, but I definitely recommend check this out. On this one here, my favourite track is Porno Actress, and for some reason there was a sexual theme kind of going through this album with robots, which I found kind of intriguing. But definitely that track, Porno Actress, and you definitely would have heard it if you were around the club scene in the early noughties. I think this album came out in 2003, and they're not very prolific when it comes to vinyl or releasing records in general. And only lately they've just managed to do a remix for the new Convinci single, which is the first time I've heard from them in such a long time. And I just love them. Really sparse, very electronic, loads of 808s. But definitely check out this album. And it's my number 19, and it's Doppler Effect, with a name of an album I can't pronounce. So please help me below. Doppler Effect on International DJ Gigolo.